Well, ladies and gentlemen, podcast 51 of the Talkin Shop podcast. Who'da thunk it? Happy New Year to everybody. Um, I want to thank our new Patreons, Alex Webb and Aaron Bates, right out of the gates. Thank you for subscribing and listening. I had a great email, Chopper, just a few days ago. A father and son, their flight got canceled, as many have over the holidays. So they drove from San Diego to San Francisco, listened to the pod the whole way. I mean, what a compliment that is. And they absolutely loved it, bringing them closer together, not only as a coach and a player, but as a father and son. So Happy New Year, my brother. How you doing?
I'm great, buddy. Happy New Year to you. And that's a really cool story. That's why we're doing it, man. If we can bring dads and sons closer, and coaches and kids, and get down to the real root of why we love sports so much. It's not so much for the win and the loss. It's more about the connection and the life lessons, and just trying to grow as sons and fathers and friends and coaches. It's great.
Win that heart. And I'm very close, my brother, to finishing a rough draft of a book, my first book, the Coach Ballgame book. And a lot of it has to do with this podcast and quotes from our guests here, and quotes from you. And that's a big one. Win the heart. And you might be in that book, Chopper. So keep an eye out for that.
Love that.
As you've inspired me big time. But hey, it's a new year. It's 2023. Do you have any resolutions? Do you do that sort of thing, brother?
I don't. For me, it's just, I guess, an opportunity just to kind of double down on all of the values that we have, and just try to be a good person and inspire and motivate, and try to be slow to anger and quick to forgive, and have empathy, and try to show love and find the positive in any situation. And the New Year's for me is just like, all right, hey, let's go. Like, let's refocus on those things that just bring a better life. No matter what comes your way, you can control how you respond. So that's what I do every New Year's. I try to just really focus on that and love my family the best I can, and keep moving, dude. Let's go.
Keep on moving. I've tried to make an effort in the new year to come up with some healthy outlets. And we do speak on mental health a lot on this show. I think it's very important to check in with your mental health, and for me, I really want to chase those outlets that improve my mental health, that make me happier. That's the gym every morning. That's definitely making my mind a happier place. Playing music with my friends. I got to play some music with my boys. We had a reunion gig. We hadn't played in 16 years. Played a couple weeks ago, and we fell right back into the pocket, right back into the groove. But all four of us now, we have kids, we have real jobs, we're married. We have this perspective now, 16 years later, that this is it. This is so fun, and we all felt like kids. And so chasing the music. I set my drum set up in the garage. My daughters are jamming on that thing too, which I love. But chasing those outlets. And then golf. I'm really driven to try and get a little better at golf, and it takes me away from that everyday grind, which we can get into as middle-aged fathers who are working and trying to be a good husband and a good father, and bring in the bacon at the same time. So I thought it'd be a good way to start the year with a new segment. How's your mental health? There's this stigma, Chopper, not so much with my kids, a little bit. I have the younger kids, but in middle school, high school, where especially young boys, that they're not willing to open up or share their feelings, or check in with their own mental health, or ask their buddy, hey, how's your mental health? I want to change that. I don't want to see a kid go 0 for 5 with a couple of strikeouts and then just beat himself up and then sweep it under the what what's your play as far as coaching these high schoolers, and even with travel ball with maybe a little bit younger? What's your advice on how to crack this stigma?
Yeah, for the younger boys and really for the older boys, it's about their joy being detached from results. And that's kind of the goal is like, and I try to show this every day in practice of like, we take a time out and look at the sunset of like, man, look at how beautiful that is, and it's like 10 seconds, but it's just a reminder of like, hey, how fortunate we are. Hey, you have a mom and dad that love you. You have a roof over your head. You have a house with a family with more than one car, which is like less than 3% of the world. You haven't had to worry about a meal in your whole life, So I try to give them these glimpses of like what we can be grateful for. And then it's like, hey, we're playing a game. So yeah, you're going to fail, but you know what? There's some beauty in that failure too, because if that wasn't a big part of this game and losing, then you wouldn't play it. If it was just hey, come ride the ride and everyone wins and there's no failure and no trouble, then the great moments wouldn't be so great, right? They kind of lose their shine. So I want them to fall in love with all of it. It's a grind. It's hard. I want them to kind of embrace the difficulty of the game. And then if you have that look of like, dude, that was really hard yesterday. That was frustrating. But hey, you know what? Today's a new day and a new moment. Or even my first at bat was frustrating, but this second at bat, this is a new moment and a new opportunity to overcome. Hey, I made an error, but watch this, So that's kind of the narrative that I try to preach. And then even if you don't win at the end of the game or the end of the season, you went through it all with this great mindset. And it's a great lesson for your opponents and your teammates of like, dude, that guy really struggled, but he still shined through it all, and that's the power that I think baseball and sports brings. So that's what I shoot for. Obviously come up short plenty as a coach, but that's the narrative that I try to preach.
Love that. And I like to bring the kids in pretty early on in the season. And a lot of you coaches out there, you're about to have your tryouts, you're about to start your little league, especially in the warmer weather places. But in any sport, bring them in and just have a family discussion before you start playing any sort of ball. Get to know your players. We've talked about that a lot. Give them nicknames, ask them, what their favorite things to do are, and really get in tune with them. Each player has their own lock, and you got a different key for each lock. Unlock that thing. And I had this visual of I went to a Donovan Frankenreiter concert, and he's got a great line. When you fall down, I'll lay down beside you for as long as it takes. And I had this visual of a player falling down, and I see a coach that wants to scream, get up, get back up, get in the game. But instead he doesn't. He lays down beside him and he says, hey, dude, I've fallen down before. I'm going to lay here right beside you in the mud and for as long as it takes. And I never want to do that. I'm Mr. Positive. I'm Mr. Jump back up, respond quick, and let's get after it. But there are some kids that's not what they need. They need empathy. They need you to lay down beside them and say, hey, I'm here for as long as it takes. And I think that visual there, make that a painting and show that painting to your players and say, this is me. This is who I am. I'm going to be that guy. When you fall down, I'll be right beside you. And I'm going to make plenty of mistakes. But as far as like cracking a stigma on sharing your feelings or being open to create a relationship with a coach or a player, I think the coach has to make that first move. The dad, the mom has to make that first move and say, hey, this is a safe place where you can share whatever you need to. You having a bad day at school, you have a tough test, a relationship that you're struggling with. Let's all come together and let's win each other's hearts before we start winning baseball games. Man, I think that's the key. And if you want to win championships, I think that's the way you do it. What say ye?
I agree. And fortunate, the school that I coach at, fortunate it's a Christian school. So we get to have this moment of devotion where we're gonna start it this year, but we're gonna go. JV's gonna practice before varsity, right? And we're gonna all come together for like 5 minutes before varsity practice starts at the end of JV practice, because we have one field that we share. And it's going to be exactly what you just said. It's going to be a moment of, hey, does anybody have any prayer requests? How's everyone doing? Especially with the JV players too, because I don't get to spend a lot of time with them. So we get to check in. How's everyone doing? How's everyone's family? Does anyone need any prayer or any thoughts? Or is anyone struggling with anything in school, whatever the case may be? And we say a quick prayer, and then, we get on with the practice for the older boys, and we send the JV boys home. But yeah, it's got to be, everyone's got to know the culture is what you tolerate or what you create. So you want it to be a culture of openness as a coach, and of like, hey dude, if you're struggling with something, it may seem trivial to the guy next to you, but it's not to you. It's real. So can we help strengthen you and help you through it, even if it's laying down next to you, and help you get through it?
And teach these kids the importance of that. And to say, hey, when you see a teammate that's down in the mud, put your hand around them, put your hand on their shoulder and say, hey, everything okay? There's something way more important than the game right now. And that's your hearts. And man, I think that's a great thing to teach a young person.
I love it.
Flipping gears, man. We got a great guest today. We've been excited for this guest. Who's on the program, Chopper? And how'd you guys meet?
We have a gentleman here, Joe Davis, who is the play-by-play voice of the Dodgers. He's also the voice of the World Series, MLB on Fox, does a lot of football, can cover any sport. He's got just a pure voice. Joe and I met with my time in the Dodgers, and the words that I came up for Joe Davis when I think about him are, he's humble, prepared, curious, he's gracious, he's just filled with gratitude, he's thoughtful, he's joyous, he's positive, he's trustworthy, and he's just an overall great man. And that's a heck of a list for how people think of you. And I know I'm not alone with, that's what Joe Davis kind of represents, man. He's a great dude. So super pumped to have him. He's going to be awesome.
I think of him as a utility player. He can do it all. And going down his list of accomplishments, starting out at Beloit College, calling basketball and baseball there, did some basketball and volleyball at Loyola University in Chicago, some minor league baseball, some D3 sports. He really worked his way through the minor league, so to speak, to get to where he is now, where number one MLB guy on Fox took over the Joe Buck role, and he took over Vince Scully's job, the successor of the guy. So I'm excited to unpack his journey, any Vince Scully stories. Was he nervous calling his first World Series? All that good stuff. But he can really do it all with basketball, volleyball, football, baseball, the whole deal. And I'm guessing while you were working with the Dodgers, that's where you built a relationship with him, and he's got kids, right?
Yeah, he's got babies. He's got 3 of them, and he loves to cook and tells great stories, and he's always positive, and he's on the show with us. Joe Davis, welcome to the show. We're just talking about how much we love you. Thank you so much for jumping on, and Happy New Year.
Hey guys, happy to go on. How you guys doing?
Doing great.
Snaps.
Introduce you to my partner here, Coach Ballgame.
What's up, Coach?
Joe, great to meet you. I think of you as the Frank Sinatra of broadcasting. You're quite the utility player, man. You do it all. I can't wait to unpack your journey and how you did it, but it's great to meet you. And Chopper, nothing but great things to say about you, brother.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I'm happy to be on with you.
Outstanding.
Joe, I went through a list of like what I think about, or like words that when I want to describe you to somebody, and this is what I came up with. I think you're humble. I think you're prepared. You're curious. You're gracious. You're just filled with gratitude. You're thoughtful. You're joyous. You always have a positive spin. You're trustworthy, and you're just an overall great man. That's what I think about you, dude. So
hey, thanks, man.
Yeah. What do you think about that? How do you
I
agree
think
with that?
I hope you're not going to change it when you hear my kids screaming in the background. Like maybe he's not that good. No, that means a lot. And I think that, you mentioned the word gratitude. And I think the more that I kind of reflect on things, and, I think we all probably, as we get further into fatherhood and deeper into life, we probably do more of that reflecting. The more that I do, the more I think gratitude is like the most important thing that one can have. Right. That everything good comes from having a sense of that. And yeah, you can, pursue excellence and grind and all that. But the foundation of all that is just being really thankful for what you do have. So hearing you say that word, that definitely strikes a chord. And you're too kind, man, using all the words you did.
Yeah. So you got what some would say is a tough hand. It's not because of who you are, but following Vin Scully, like, take us through that. And even Joe Buck. I mean, golly, like you're getting these opportunities, but because of all these things that I believe you are and like how God made you, I think you're perfect for it because you don't get in your own way. It's just like, hey, I'm thankful to be here. I'm going to do my very best. But like, what was that like? Like that's an amazing opportunity, but it comes with some, it could be difficult if you weren't who you are. But what was that like? And kind of give us a glimpse of what that was like.
Yeah, I think the first thing, Chad, is that it made the job. In the case of the Dodger job, it's why I wanted it. So I was doing Fox stuff and I wasn't necessarily looking to add a team gig to the equation, but this was one where it's like, man, like I can't turn that one down. And the other way to look at it would be, man, I don't want that job. Like, I'm gonna be a dead man walking trying to be the guy to follow Vince Scully. But I try to look at it the other way, where it is what defined it for me and why I wanted it and the responsibility that came from that, and just the once in a lifetime nature of being the guy that had that chance and that responsibility. It's why I wanted it. So I think that was the first part of it. And the other part of it was just being me and, knowing that I'm not replacing Vin. And in this case, I'm not replacing Joe. And I know it's all semantics, but I just couldn't look at it as trying to replace those guys. I showed up and tried to work hard and treat people right, but then just let myself be myself. And it helps when the team wins like 120 games a year and I'm delivering good news. But yeah, just be myself and hope over time people could come to at least accept that. And I think a combination of me being myself, the team being good, and me having a really good partner in Oral has allowed people to accept me.
And one of the words that I think of when I think of you is positive. And that's a big deal because, in the replay room for 8 years, I heard every broadcast of 162 games for the Giants and the Dodgers. And on the road, you have different voices. And there's times when broadcasters can get a little bit negative and maybe not even know it. But I've never heard you be negative, period. And there's like Dodgers win a lot of games, but there's also moments when it's like, this is a very talented team who's going through it a little bit because baseball's tough. Yeah. You never got negative. You always found a way to keep it. It was honest, right? Mm-hmm. But you said it in a way of like the utmost respect for the players and never losing sight of like, this is a really hard game that even these best players are doing. It's hard. So is that something that you're mindful of?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. And you never want to, and you use the word honest, you never want to lose that because people at home aren't stupid. And I'm not, as a broadcaster, I'm not serving the players. I'm not serving the players' families. I'm serving the fans. And so if I was being positive just for the sake of being positive and treating the players and their families' feelings, I'm not doing my job right. So I think that it does come from just a foundation. I think you got to have a foundation of loving the game, which I have. Back to that word gratitude. I love where I'm at. I'm so thankful that I'm doing the job. And so with that as kind of this underlying subliminal foundation to the whole thing, I think you can be honest and still just have it painted and positioned where it doesn't come off as an angry guy yelling at a cloud. You can be honest, you could say what you see and then move on. I think it's important not to linger when there's something negative. You state what happened. I'm not the analyst. It's not my job to break down the negative thing. It's my job to tell you it's bad, tell you that it was a bad play, and then move on to the next thing. So yeah, I think that you got to be honest, but nobody wants to hear you linger on the negative stuff.
I love it. Coach Ballgame, what do you got for my guy, Joe?
Man, oh man, I want to go back to the beginning. But I think a lot of folks think, well, this guy, he just he shows up and bang, he gets the biggest couple of jobs you can think of. But it's not just showing up. I mean, you paid your dues and going through your journey of calling D3 sports, volleyball. I mean, you called games for the Montgomery Biscuits, for crying out loud. Listener, just do a little Wikipedia down Joe Davis Boulevard. Where did it all begin? Where the love of sports begin for you growing up? From what I hear, Potterville, Michigan. Is that right?
Yeah, so I'm the son of a football coach. My dad's a longtime high school football coach. I grew up around sports and from an early age knew that I wanted to be involved in sports. And I'm lucky in that I knew not just that I wanted to be involved in sports, but from a really early age, I think from the time that you start thinking to yourself, I want to be this when I grow up, or I want to be that when I grow up. This is what I wanted to do. And it's fine if you don't know that. But for me, it was a big advantage that I did. And so it kind of guided my decision making from a really early age, choosing a college where I went and played Division III football. But the recruiting pitch was, hey, not only can you come have a chance to start right away, but you can announce the basketball games. And then when I got to college, it was, okay, you can go to this party, or you can go study the industry a little more. And it's not that I didn't go to any parties, but I spent a lot of time while I was in college using those 4 years as a chance to set myself ahead of the curve for when I did graduate. So I think that having that direction early on is kind of where a lot of the success I've had started.
I mean, that was the second question I had is, how'd you start getting these gigs in college? Calling basketball. So it was a barter. I'll come
Yeah.
play if
Yeah.
you let me call the games. I mean,
Right.
that's outstanding. I wonder how you switch gears from sport to sport. I mean, you call college basketball, you call NFL football, you're calling the baseball. One of my proudest moments in this world is I won a Jim Nance sound-alike contest on the Dan Patrick Show. True story, 2018. He gave me a call. We talked for 14 minutes and 32 seconds, and then he sent me a bottle of wine. But the video that I submitted was his warm-up routine before the Masters, because he's coming off the Final Four. He's coming off, March Madness, and then he's got to go quiet. He's got to go. So, I just kind of had some word salad, like a 60-second warm-up going into live, like Fred Couples has a supple spine. Juniper, juniper, juniper. Thank you, 30 seconds. Just getting into that groove. Do you have to do that? How do you switch gears from high-speed basketball and football to slowing it down with baseball? Do you have a routine?
First of all, you do have like the perfect kind of pitch and resonance to your voice to be able to do Jim Nance.
You're speaking my love language.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. It's not as, and I do talk to people a lot about this, but it's not as big of a deal as people tend to think. And I don't know why that is. It's just, I love doing them both. So the football and baseball at this point, one of the great things about, I guess I can say this, not one of the great things about kind of this recent little run of success is that I'm not doing basketball anymore. Love basketball, but I love my family more. So I get a couple months in the winter where I got nothing. And so I'm happy to get that one out of the equation. And going back and forth between football and baseball, I don't know. It's probably not as difficult of a thing as going between the Final Four and the Masters. Those are different. That's the 10 speed and the 1 speed. Whereas football and baseball, that's like, yeah, it's different, but it's almost like the perfect difference where you're not going to confuse one for the other because they're different enough, but it's not so far from one end of the spectrum to the other in terms of style and energy where it's like a shock to the system.
Yeah. I think I read an article where, as you were taking over the Vin Scully job, you weren't trying to emulate him, which is kind of impossible to do, but you took, um, what you loved about Vin Scully, you tried to take that with you into your broadcasts. I mean, what parts of your broadcast do you try and emulate a Vin Scully?
The biggest thing is the storytelling component of it. I think that he's the greatest storyteller ever to do the job. I think these days you don't hear as much storytelling in broadcasts. So when I would listen to him, and then when I would listen to myself and critique myself, my ears were always perking up when I'd hear stories. Obviously his, but then where it was really telling for me would be when I'd go back and listen to myself and hear a story, and I'd be like, okay, I'm telling, and that told me something. Like, okay, there's something about this, there's something to this. So that storytelling component that I try to bring, especially to baseball broadcasts, is something I take from him. I think the first thing was recognizing that there's something to it, that we as humans like to hear stories. And I think the other thing is that it kind of goes back to what we were saying, Chop, where these are people on the field before they're players. And it's a way to make them that. It's a way to humanize them for the viewers. So they are more than just the team's shortstop and three hitter. They're people out there serving these jobs.
The story element. I mean, I go around the country and I coach kids. That's my job. And luckily MLB has hired me on to run their play ball camps as well. You actually gave me and play ball a shout out at the World Series.
Yeah.
You probably didn't even know who the guy in the fedora hat was, but we were there.
Jim
and
Nance.
Jim Nance is coaching play ball camps. Hello, friends. But I was telling this story, the Roberto Clemente story. It's the story I tell to every kid I've ever coached, and man, their eyes light up when you talk about kindness and a kid using a lemon for a ball and a stick for a bat, or Jim Abbott throwing a no-hitter with one hand. A lot of times the kid's favorite part of camp is not the hitting or the throwing, it's story time. So awesome. Man, I mean, the fact that you would take that from the best of all time, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and you know what I've done too, Coach, is I've studied it, and not just studying by listening to Vin, but I could show you over here on one of the bookshelves in here. There are a few books in there on storytelling, on the art of storytelling and the structure of telling stories, and how to really not just tell a story, but tell a story that sticks with people. And that's, you're not going to, 3-hour broadcast every night of a baseball season. It's not going to be 3 hours, 162 times of all these stories, these legendary stories, but just a simple way of kind of improving my ability to do that hopefully permeates across the season, where they are a little better stories to listen to.
Well, it definitely comes off seamless to me in my ears. So well done.
Thank you. Yeah, for me, it's a couple of things that I want to touch on that. And I wrote down prepared when I think of Joe Davis. But what I want to touch on first is what we talk a lot about with our guests, Joe, is, and I'm going to say this because you have the humility. You won't say it, but I'm going to say it for you. You're really great at your job. You really are. It's why you went from Dodgers and then Fox said, hey, we need you in the World Series. You don't stumble into greatness. And this is what we talk about when we've had Mookie on and all these guests. Like, no one just there's some fortunate breaks, but you kind of make those. So you've always had this vision of what you wanted to do. But the fact that you say, hey, yeah, I'm pretty good at telling stories, but like I've worked at it, I've studied it. I've perfected when to kind of pause and what stories to tell and why you tell them. And it's impressive. I love it. The question that I have for you is about your preparation. Like, what does a day look like? Let's say beginning of a series. So you're coming in and let's say National League East. So this is a club that we're not going to see a ton of, but when do you start preparing for that? And then what does a day look like where you're thinking about, okay, this is a really good story. I'm going to tell this about so-and-so.
Yeah, so to use the example you gave, a National League East team, let's say we're playing the Braves starting on the 15th of the month, probably the 1st of the month or so, somewhere in there, 1st of the 8th, week or two before. I'm going, and the tricky thing is in a baseball season, you got a game that night that you got to get ready for. So it's not like on the 15th when the Braves come in, I'm diving into the Braves. The weeks leading up to that, I'm studying the Braves. And everybody has their own way of preparing and their own way of putting together these notes. I use a program called Microsoft OneNote, where it's kind of the landing page for all the stuff I read. I've got a page for every team, and under that, I've got a tab for every player. And I dig, and I don't know how people did it before the internet, but I'm just kind of a hound on Google and go deep down, like we all do sometimes late at night. We get in some of those rabbit holes, right? You find one video and then you find yourself, well, I find one article and then I try to find every article that there is on Ozzie Albies as the Braves get ready to come to town. And I go through and I update the page. The longer I'm in this, the more I have in that Microsoft OneNote account. And so a guy like that, it's just mostly updating from the last year, finding the stories that were written since I last did the Braves and studied Ozzie Albies. But then Michael Harris is part of the Braves now. So I've got from scratch, got to learn about Michael Harris and all his stories. But anyways, I'm just going through, and every player I'm learning about, trying to find those stories that I can tell, trying to come up in my mind with creative ways to tell those stories, effective ways to tell those stories. And in doing that, you kind of learn the story of the team, and you're learning those as you lead up to the series. Then the series arrives. I've got all these stories on all the players, and I do it for all the position players. If there's 13 position players on a team, probably 10 of them I've got a lot of stuff on. And then I'll do it for the starting pitchers the day that they pitch. Once we get into the series, I'll do a similar deep dive. Series arrives, so 15th of the month, we're using just as a hypothetical example. I'm doing more deep dives into what matters right now. Whereas that stuff leading up to it's the bigger picture, lifetime stories, and maybe over the last year. Well, then we get into the series, and it's what's important now. It's a little more statistical research. We get a packet from our stats guy, Rick Krajewski, at the start of each series. It's 40 to 50 pages long of everything from your basic stat lines to what kind of pitches he's hitting, what part of the fields he's using, and so on. So deep dive into that. And again, on the 15th, while you got the Braves that night, you're putting that all together, all the work you've done the previous couple of weeks, ready to use that night. Well, now April 20th or whatever, you've got the Padres coming to town for the first time. And so you're at the same time working on that. I get the division teams done going into the year. It's because we're going to see them so many times. So I have the player pages done, but it's just kind of an ever evolving thing. And then I got my Fox games on Saturdays a lot where I'm going away doing Yankees, Red Sox. So there are sometimes there through the middle part of the summer where I'm doing those Fox games every weekend and seeing teams with the Dodgers for the first time, where I've got like 4 or 5 teams that I'm doing that on at once.
And here's the thing about it. You've got a passion and a love for it. So yeah. I believe that although it's stressful, you love it. Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it's a lot, but then it's a lot of reading about sports and getting paid to do it. Like reading about sports and then relaying those stories. Oh, like cry me a river, dude.
It's the gratitude, man. It comes back to like you have that foundation of gratitude.
Yep.
And as a viewer, it shows. And as someone who had opportunities to see you, pregame and stuff, like COVID made it weird, but before that, and even after in 2021, like every time I got to see you, you exude gratitude and joy and like, hey, what's up? What are you guys doing? What's up? How's it going? Like what? So like, that's what I appreciate. And that's why I asked you to come on, is like, I want people to know about you, about like, hey, dude, this guy, he's a great human and he's trying to come into every situation and be positive and like I said, you can still be honest and be positive. And you just add to every situation. It's like we talked about Javi Lopez, he came on. And it's like, you make a good situation great and you make a bad situation not so bad. That's what I appreciate about you. And I'm thankful that you're like that. And that's why I'm proud to have you as a friend.
Thanks, Chop.
Of course.
Don't
Coach
you think
Ballgame.
I think we need a little mini Chad Chop on our shoulder at all times, just giving
I,
us that
yeah,
love, right? I mean,
I'm going to take this with me for days, weeks.
well, I mean, I keep forgetting for Jock Peterson, you were the what? You were given what?
I was his hype guy, and we'd have dig me sessions. So yeah, when he was feeling a little bit down and low, he would come in, and I would remind him that he's why they're popping all the popcorn. He's the show. He's the cheese.
It's awesome.
So good. Well, I mean, you hopped right into the booth. Our pal Joe, who was on the podcast, went over to ESPN, and there you are in the World Series with Smoltzy. Take us inside there. I know you'd called a game or two, maybe the previous year, but what's it like? You're calling the Fall Classic for the first time.
Yeah, it was. So I'd done a couple championship series games filling in for Joe when he would miss for the NFL. I'd never done World Series game. Honestly, we talk about having the dreams of what you want to do when you grow up, and this is what I wanted. If had you asked me what, like, okay, now narrow it down, what you get to pick one thing, I'd tell you I wanted to do the World Series. And as a kid, it was Joe Buck doing the World Series on Fox. So I would have told you I want to be Joe Buck. Yeah. And so to have that happen, I mean, not just amazing doing a crown event like that, but when it's specifically what I had always set out to do, mind-blowing stuff, man. You know what was cool though is that while it met and exceeded expectations of how special it would be, what made me most proud about it is that it never felt too big. So it was that perfect combination of feelings where it was like, wow, this is amazing, and looking around during the anthem and, you know, saying, wow, I'm really here. It never went beyond that where it was, oh crap, I'm here. Like, oh boy, there's a lot of people watching, sink or swim, buddy. I never had that. It was, oh my gosh, I can't believe I've made it here where I've always wanted to. But then it was, let's go. Let's do it. This is what I've been working my whole life to do. I'm ready. This is just the next big game. And that was the other part of it. It was every day, right? It was Division Series game 1, rolled into Division Series game 2, rolled into the next big game, into Championship Series game 1 with the same partner and the same crew and the same game in front of me. And so World Series game 1 was the next big game in a month full of them. And it was the big game that I'd been working my whole life to get ready for. So it was a dream come true in all the cliche ways, but it was also a dream come true in a combination of feelings that really made me proud.
Love that. Two things there. One, back to Jim Nantz. That's what he wanted to do as a kid, is call the Masters. And that doesn't happen a lot. Like where you're the kid, you're watching something, that's my goal, and then it ends up happening. That doesn't happen much. Secondly, what do you attest that surprisingly free and calming sense that you had calling the World Series? Is that just the Montgomery Biscuits and the volleyball games at Loyola University? Like, why were you not crazy nervous? Do you have an answer for that?
I think it's all that. I think that it's all that stuff, that it's, I knew that it's what I wanted to do. And I'd spent most days since deciding that working to get ready for it. So you guys know, it's no different than for any of us when we were in school and those tests that we studied really hard for. And then that feeling when you sit down to take the test, it's like, I got this. I know every answer on this test. Why? Because you grinded to get ready for it. So there's nothing to worry about then. Conversely, there's the test where we've all shown up and been like, oh boy, like I just didn't have time to, and I just don't have a grasp on this. I haven't put the time in. I don't know this stuff. Those are very different feelings. We're all familiar with both of them. And the feeling that I had, I think, just came from a place of being as well prepared as I could have been.
We've had actors on, we've had musicians, we've had broadcasters, athletes, and it's the same. There's the same themes that keep coming up. Like the win is the grind. The win is the process. If you're focused on the outcome, you'll be paralyzed. Hunter Pence said that, where the outcome will paralyze you. But you were prepared. You just stayed with the grind. I'm reading Joe Madden's book right now. The Struggle is Beautiful, man. And I think all of that, when you keep pushing plus on the calculator, add it all up, you're there. You're in the batter's box in the big moment, ready to shine.
It's confidence through preparation. It's that. It's exactly what you just said. A perfect analogy for it. But that's when I'm telling my young athletes, it's like, hey, get in there and grind. If you're not sure, you don't know if you're going to succeed. It might happen. You might get lucky, but who wants that anyways? You didn't really earn it. Have that confidence through preparation. Get in there and grind. And he's told us like how much he prepares. So it's like you get into the World Series, like, oh, can't wait. Let's go. There's only 2 teams left. I don't have to focus on another game on Saturday. Like, this is it, and I'm ready. It's easy. Yeah, it's light work.
Right.
It's great. Coach Ballgame, you've got a trivia. I'm ready, dude. I'm fully focused on some Joe Davis trivia.
So here's what we do, Joe. At the end of every podcast, we have a little trivia contest, and Chopper started out about 0-12, really rough, but he's coming in strong lately, and I have some trivia, mostly Dodgers trivia. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but you did a little bit of Dodgers baseball in 16. But you went full on in 2017. Is this correct?
Yeah.
Yes. So
do I win the trivia there? I got that.
So yes, 1-0 Joe Davis.
Okay, good.
So I've got from 2017 until present day, some stats, some questions for you. So I'll give you a couple seconds to kind of ruminate on that. And listener, if you can try and answer the question before Joe or Chopper, you get the point. But I think, because most of these names are similar, you get one guess here, Chopper. This is new. Usually you can just keep blurting out guesses.
Like it.
But, as soon as you know the answer, Joe, say the answer. But you only get one chance at getting it right. If you both get it wrong, I get the point. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Ready.
Since 2017, what Dodger has the most dingers?
Cody Bellinger.
Correct. 1-0 Joe Davis. He's got 152 bombs. Now he's going to be hitting bombs for my Chicago Cubbies at Wrigley. Number 2 is Max Muncy with 139, and he started a year later. So he's in second place. Most triples from 2017 to present day. What Dodger?
Gavin Lux.
I like that guess too. Okay, no.
Incorrect.
Chris Taylor. That's just
correct.
Let's go.
Yeah, I like it.
Chris Taylor, other than last year, Gavin Lux had the most triples with 7, I believe. Taylor has led the team in triples every year. Just a quick one on him, as the game is tied 1-1, and both of you. What does that guy mean to that clubhouse? But Joe, we'll start with you.
He's an example for me, Chop, of just boring excellence, where it's like he's not going to be many people's like favorite player. He's on a team full of stars, but if you ask any one of those stars, like who's in there grinding with the best of them, and I think Chris would tell you too, sometimes to a fault, grinding, it's him, man. Everything you think of when you watch him play, he's that as a person and behind the scenes. And he also just, as a person, as normal and down to earth and respectful and kind as anybody you'll meet.
Yeah, he's quiet. He's a professional. I was talking to Doc a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, and I kind of blew him away with a comp. I had one of my high school kids he's going to U of A, and I said, Doc, this kid is Verdugo's talent with Chris Taylor's mindset. And Doc was blown away. Yeah, right. But it's that quiet. He's going to grind. He's going to put the work in, sometimes to a fault.
Yep.
Chris Taylor, every successful clubhouse has a guy that's close to Chris Taylor. I think it's a huge part of the Dodgers' success.
He's also the kind of guy, Chop, if my son grows up and he's like him, or my daughter grows up and marries somebody like him, I'm over the moon happy about it.
Absolutely right. Yeah, perfect.
Well,
That point
I
goes to
love
Joe on that last description of Taylor. 2-1,
I love
Joe.
that. Yeah, bang, 2-1 Joe on that one. We're gonna go 1-1, and listener, keep on trying to beat these guys. Hit by pitch.
Justin
What
Turner.
hitter? Correct.
Yeah, JT. Yeah, easy.
JT, that was an easy one. 69 times he's been hit since 2017.
Another guy's going to be missed. He'll be missing that clubhouse, man.
Yep.
Irreplaceable.
A quick pop on him, please, as he's headed on to Boston. Is that right? What are you going to miss about him?
Pop, you go first on him.
Same thing as far as professional grinder. He's a superstar, but he doesn't act like a superstar in the clubhouse. He's curious. He's got empathy towards others. He's always trying to kind of give off what he knows, which is rare for superstars. Contrast that to like a Barry Bonds who told his teammates, like, why don't you just figure it out? Really? Justin Turner is another guy where you're going to find him or something close to him in a successful clubhouse. And a great guy in the community. JT's unbelievable. Joe, what do you got?
Yeah, I'll just supplement that with, I mean, we see the obvious stuff on the field, but if you look a little more closely on the field, he's got a little Manny Machado in him, in that it all looks easy and smooth and kind of like he's, I heard Aaron Boone describe somebody playing defense at third one time, and I'm not saying this about JT's defense at third, but just his overall game, like he's getting into a warm bath.
Love it.
Ninth inning in a tie game, bases loaded. He just steps into the box and settles in like he's getting into a warm bath.
That's a Jim Nance.
It is.
Just
Everyone can relate.
That backswing of Louis Oosthuizen. It looks like he's just climbing into a warm bath.
Nice.
I got a little Jack Nicholson there. 2-1 Joe Davis. As we move on to pitchers. What pitcher has hit the most batters since Joe started calling? Good one.
That's a good one.
Kershaw?
Incorrect.
As the game's
Kershaw
pitched?
averages about 2 per year. So, which is amazing.
Yeah, as much as he pitches inside, that's why I went with a guess.
I know, right? But he's just so pinpoint.
I'm gonna go with
Chopper.
Bueller. I'm gonna go with Bueller because he pitched second most games and innings. And what do you got?
Well done.
Let's go.
2-2. Rich Hill is second place with 21, but Bueller's hit 22 guys.
Wow, that was close.
Here for half that time. It's so good. As you say that, I get these visions in my head of him, gets away from.
Hey, Joe, were you in Tampa when the
I
shift?
was not on that trip. I was watching it on TV at home, and so good.
So good.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a perfect storm with no fans in the stands. And he really let the staff, the whole state of Florida, everyone watching that. He was not super pleased with the positioning.
Where did he sign? He signed in Pittsburgh, is that right?
He did, yeah.
Boy, they're gonna need to get a few more fans in there to make it family friendly while he's
You're not wrong.
Tie game 2-2. The oldest Dodger that Joe has called.
Albert Pujols.
There it is.
Correct.
Let's go.
Correct.
Attaboy. Good job, Joe.
And just for fun, second place, a couple of 39-year-olds.
Rich Hill.
And early on.
Okay.
I'm thinking a backup catcher. No.
Gotta be like some weird relievers that were
right.
Weeks. John Axford or something like that.
He's really gotten some good salt and pepper going lately up here. Grinder. Second baseman leader.
Oh gosh.
Chase Utley.
Bang.
Chase
Utley.
Silver Fox.
Silver Fox. 39.
Talk about a
3-2
respected dude. Chase Utley, respected dude in the clubhouse. My God, changed the culture really of that clubhouse.
Yeah,
and,
you said
the
that
preparation.
before.
Yep.
Youngest Dodger you've called.
Cody.
Correct.
It's Julio.
Julio
And it wouldn't be the
was-
same name twice.
Now, Gratterall has been the youngest Dodger for a while now, but Julio was 20 when you called him in his first year. So Julio is correct. 4-2. Man, not many
El
20-year-old
Guason. Coach Ballgame.
pros.
Yeah,
Ah.
Julio, I nicknamed him El Guason because he has a like a Dodge Charger that's the Joker colors. So El Guason is Joker in Spanish. And you want to talk about someone who's just got so much like respect for people, like so kind to me, and just a really respectful young man. And he's wise beyond his years, and he's got this poise beyond his years. Yeah, El Guason's one of my favorites, man.
I don't know if it was 2020. I think it's 2020 where it happened for him, where he had such a great postseason run. But it was like the flip of a switch where now every time he pitches, he looks like he believes he's the greatest player in baseball. And there are some nights he looks like the greatest pitcher in baseball. But it's been really cool to watch that evolution of body language and belief after seeing him get here. I know it says age 20 season, but I believe he's 19 years old when he first pitched.
Ooh, first one was 19. Hey,
Yeah.
I am so open to being corrected, and you're probably right. He was 19, turned 20.
Yeah.
So good deal there. When I watch him from the center field camera, great pitcher, but the numbers sometimes don't match up to what I'm watching. What am I missing, Chopper? What does he has? Is this biting breaking ball?
It's a high spin rate fastball. He's changed the shape of his breaking ball, and that's really what kind of has helped him too. But he's also has the fearlessness to throw any pitch at any count. And to me, that's this big weapon. Contrast him to like a Tony Gonsolin, who this year made the adjustment, but in years past, Tony didn't challenge guys. So he'd get into all these hitters counts where El Guason, he's coming at you. Like, here's my fastball. How far can you hit it? You know what I mean? So he gets in these 0-2 counts, puts pressure on guys. Guys behind him love to be behind him because they know he's going to attack. But it's a fastball that disappears with the spin rate. He's got this cut on it sometimes. Talk to Giants about it, and they say the same thing. Like, he's the guy where like, this guy's nasty.
Yeah. And he knows he's going to dominate you.
Yeah.
I would think as a hitter, you can feel that. You can feel him just kind of like, he's 6'1" or whatever, but he's got to feel like he's 7 feet tall standing out there just ready to dominate you.
Yep.
That's what Jock said. I'm the Incredible Hulk in the box. You have to know that. You got to believe that you are.
He's been listening to Chop apparently, right?
Dig me, Sesh. We're almost out of here. We all got young kids. This is a general MLB trivia question. Who played all 162 last year? Two guys.
Dansby Swanson and Matt Olson.
5-2 Joe Davis in the lead.
I mean, you love to see it. I'm not even mad. I'm amazed. Wheel of cheese.
And both those guys, same team. The only
awesome.
two guys to play all 162.
Sounds like a culture. I think Freddie Freeman would have done it too if they didn't force him to sit, right? So same
Him
culture.
and Trey were 60, 61. Yeah. What player had the most RBI in Joe's first World Series?
Ooh,
Jeremy Pena.
Good guess, but it's incorrect.
man, gosh, I didn't watch a lot of the World Series.
This gargantuan home run put him over.
Oh,
Yeah.
Jordan. Were they getting
Jordan.
like 9 RBIs for
We'll
that,
give you that
home
one.
run?
Yeah, take it. Give Joe that one. He called
Absolutely.
it. He earned it.
Yeah, whoever I said had the most RBIs had the most RBIs, coach.
Joe Davis is now, he's going to win, but we're
Dominant.
going to finish with some Kershaw
Okay.
trivia.
Next point
Who
wins.
is-
Let's get it.
Each question's worth 2. Who has Kershaw struck out the most?
Belt.
In his Correct.
Let's go.
Very good.
Ah,
And
'Cause
this
you
is
have to live
Kershaw's
by-
life.
You lived the other side.
I
of
was
it.
on the other side of it where Belt would wake up with nightmares. Funny story about Belt and Kirsch. They were both like these really prominent high school pitchers, and Belt was a bigger prospect
Huh.
than Kershaw. Isn't that crazy? And I've confirmed that with both guys.
And then Brandon Belt's first career at bat, a swinging bunt base hit against Kershaw, has not made contact since.
Yes. Yes. And Bell talked about that in his car at the gas station
Yep.
in One Horse Town, Texas.
Lufkin.
Lufkin, because that's the only place you could get good cell service.
But it was in what was the car? It was in like it was a nice car.
It was a nice car.
Felt like his cars.
In a Shell station.
It was a Bentley.
Who's hit the most dingers all time against Kershaw? Orange County guy. Correct.
Arenado?
Oh, yeah. Nolan Arenado.
Yeah, Orange County guy.
With 5. Finally, who's got the most hits of all time? Also the most at-bats against Kershaw.
Paul Goldschmidt.
He's second.
I love that guess.
Catcher.
Buster Posey.
Yeah, Buster Posey.
Boom. Singled him to death.
Joe Davis beat you, Chad.
He did. You know what? I was beaten by the best, and I'm okay with that. I like a top 2 finish.
I was picturing the World Cup shootout this whole time. Like I got all those little dots.
Yes.
And you try like, wait, I get one more dot. This is over, right?
It's over. It's Dormy.
Beautiful. Well, that's
good.
all I got for the Frank Sinatra of broadcasting. He can do it all. He's a utility player. Joe,
And the frontliner.
Thanks for coming on and having some fun with us, brother.
Hey, I enjoyed it, guys. Thank you for having me.
Joe, thank you. Best of luck to you, and everything you've gotten, you deserve. And we love watching you as a family, and we'll continue to watch you. So I'll continue to text you randomly during broadcast. Don't worry.
I hope you do.
Have a great day, bud. Have a happy New Year.
Sounds like you're taking a warm bath every time you listen to Joe Davis call a game.
See you, Joe. Appreciate you.
Man. See you guys.
Attaboy.
Oh, man. Coach, I mean, and that's what I was excited about with Joe, is like for folks to get to know him. He's everything that you think he is in a broadcast, you know, and he's thoughtful and he's prepared and all this cool stuff. And he's been blessed with opportunity, but he's maximized it and he's prepared for it. And I loved what he said about having that confidence through preparation going into a World Series game. It's like, why would I be nervous? This is what I've been dreaming about. I'm excited. It's a matter of like breathing through the excitement, not the fear, you know?
Yep.
What a guy.
It was the question I had for him, and he answered it. Like, how did you not get butterflies, or did you have them? How'd you manage those? But he answered it. Yeah. And it's the same thing you do when you're in the batter's box in a high leverage moment. And as a coach, it's what you try to create is that confidence, that confidence. You teach them to prepare. You prepare your kiddos in practice so they can entertain the crowd in the game. And just a really hard worker who paid his dues. And next week we've got another great broadcaster who really paid his dues. And now he shares a booth with Bob Uecker. Wow. It's Jeff Levering, and he'll be on next week. Really great guy. Can't wait to chat with him. I've listened to him call Brewers games on the radio forever. He's also working with Fox with basketball, but he's now really the head guy with Milwaukee. So another chance for us to kind of pinpoint some themes that we can connect with broadcasting and playing sports, or art and baseball kind of coinciding. So excited for that.
Yeah, I can't wait for it. I got to get off to a practice right now. It started at 11 o'clock my time, so I got to go, Coach. I love you.
Oh, buddy, I love it. Well,
have a great day. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Let's rake.